We have our audio assembly created by Tristan. It is the file we're all using as collaborators to make sure we're all on the same timeline. We know the pacing of our animation clips. We know what we're doing. We're gonna use this exported audio in our After Effects. I'm going to create my After Effects file. There is a way that I do it, so that way I feel like it's very efficient. You open it up, you make a new project, it's gonna be blank like this. And I first start by making the folders here. So I'm gonna mimic the 5-folder structure because it's just going to help make things communicable. You know, if everybody's already organizing their files a certain way in the normal computer database, why not mimic that within your project file? So that way, you know, it's easy to find assets in both systems. So assets, I'm also gonna make the footage folder, and then I'm going to make a comps folder. It's basically like the project folder, but you know, this is for the compositions that you're making in After Effects. And then we're gonna grab the exported audio. Here we go, put it in the footage folder. Then we're gonna make our composition. Now, I am assigned a very specific part of the script, 9113. This segment is, you know, it's only a part of the audio assembly, but what I like to do, especially if I were to be someone who's handling the full project, I would like to pull the whole audio into a composition. So I'm gonna make a new comp from selection. It's gonna make a new composition. But I'm gonna also wanna check that the composition settings are correct. We want it to be 1080 HD, so that's 1920 by 1080. And the frame rate is gonna be essential that we all know as animators, as collaborators. We wanna make sure our frame rate is correct, and this is the correct frame rate for this project. Because we made new comp from selection, the duration is going to be already the full duration of the file that we originally selected. So it's all good. I am just going to make sure that I add to the title here, I like to call it like comps breakout, because I'm breaking out the comps based on the audio here. Then we hit LL, and we're going to get the waveform up so we can see visually where the things lay out. Tristan was gracious enough to put markers in the timeline in Premiere, so that way when I look at it, the markers have also been exported into the file itself. So I can actually find my marker for signifying where my composition is. So here's where my file starts. I'll duplicate this as well. I don't want to like be destructive with the original lined out audio exactly. I'm going to put my playhead at the beginning of my audio, and then I'm going to give myself a second of handle time. So a full second before when my audio starts, just for safety, because oftentimes in Premiere, we might want to adjust some things. There might be changes down the road that might not necessitate a whole new export, but we just want to have that safety. So I'm going to give myself a second extra, starting from before when my audio starts. My playhead's here, my counter tells me I'm at 4 minutes and 34 seconds. I'm just going to jump it back to 33 seconds. And then I'm going to hit Control-Shift-D, and that's going to cut the layer at that time. And now I have a second before the audio begins. And then I'm going to find the end of my audio and do the same thing, but giving me a second handle at the end. Now, important to understand here, my composition does not end right when the audio ends. My composition ends when the next audio starts, because we're not going to cut to the next composition this early because we haven't heard any audio to introduce us to the next thing yet. As an audience member, we're still sitting on the audio that we just heard, and we're going to sit there until the next bit of audio starts. So that's really when my comp ends at this point. And now I need a second extra after this point. So instead of 57 seconds, I'm going to 58 seconds. Control-Shift-D, and now I have the audio for my composition selected. It's cut out. This is the easy thing. I'm going to just hit pre-compose on this file. I'm going to move all true attributes to a new composition, adjust composition duration to the time span of the selected layers, and then I'm going to give this composition the name that I've been assigned, and this one was 9113. That 9113 corresponds to the 9100 folder that we had set up in the 9000 folder in our assets folder, because we have all assigned ourselves these numbers to make sure we don't conflict each other and we know what composition, what animation beat we're dealing with. Some animators just do 9113 and then V1. I like to give it a slightly descriptive name just because we're dealing with humans still. Humans reading these things should know what's inside of it just by reading it. So I like to give it a human readable name as well, based on what's the content of this animation. So 9113, the voiceover says, it's about society. It's about society. So 9113, yeah, I'm gonna just do society. It's a slightly descriptive name, but it's gonna describe the content of the animation because we're describing human society in a certain way. Then I'm gonna make sure I put a V1 at the end. I think that's very important because down the road when we go to second revision, third revision, we're gonna want to make a V2, V3 version of this, and we just wanna make sure that we've given that name initially here. Let's move these comps into our comps folder, keep this place organized. And then I always like to make a new folder within the comps folder called pre-comps. This comp, this 9113, is going to be an actual thing that I export, and we're gonna put it into the Premiere file. But this breakout file is not necessarily like that. I'll just keep that out of my sight until I need it. I'm also gonna label or color code my 9113 with green, because when I look at this on my timeline, I wanna see green. And then let's say we go to second revision, I'm just gonna go up here, hit Control D to duplicate it. And now I have a V2 automatically, change the name automatically. And I'm going to change my original one to red, so that way I know that is the original one that I made a week ago, and this is the new one that I have to work on, and export this one and save under V2. And when I look at my timeline, I'm gonna automatically see red, and I'm gonna realize, oh shit, I'm working off the wrong one. I'm working off an old version. I have to click into V2, open that one up, and animate off of that one. It's just a good way to use the color code system. But we're not on revision 2 yet, we're still on revision 1. So I'm going to open up 9113, society. Let's turn on our audio, hit LL, see our waveform. All right, let's see what we got, what we're dealing with here.
People have a natural incentive to make money. They want to do well. They want to take care of themselves and their families. And as long as a nation gives them the basic tools to do that, the right to freely do business with others, the right to control their own property, the right to have their day in court if someone tries to cheat them, the whole country is going to prosper in the process.
Okay. I need to fill this composition with animated assets. I have my timings. I'm basically ready to go. Now there are a few things I haven't done yet, which I should do right now, which is I should get the brand approved colors from this client. This client has a certain brand. This goes to a YouTube channel. They want everything to be uniform, and they have colors that we should be using. So I'm gonna go find that. We have a folder called the catalog folder. This is for assets that can be applied to all the episodes under this client that we make. That way we don't have to duplicate it into every episode's asset folder. We just make a catalog folder. These assets can be used in every project. We have the branding colors. I'm just gonna bring that into assets, and I'll open this in a moment. Put this under 9000. Graphics. Like I said, graphics tends to be my catch-all. I'm gonna double click that, put it up here, and we are going to look for the hex codes, because apparently if you were to just eyedropper this color block here, it would not be accurate to the hex code. Then I like to make all my solids right away. Solid, grab this color, type in the hex code, that's A39CF4, that's our light purple. Let's grab the next one, A866EE, that's electric, 4E25CC. Current 30C9E8 66EE CE1D1734. And then the last few FCEF00. And then I like to get two more here. I like to grab the grayish background here. And then I like to grab the kind of off-white there. And then we have all of our solids. These automatically were put into a solids folder. I'll take the solids folder, put that 9000, put the branding colors under that. And now we have its own folder where we have all the brand colors. And if you eyedropper these squares, you will get the accurate color that you want. Having that all done right away is always nice and helpful. When I work, I like to put my waveform on the top of my composition. You know, as you work, you tend to like get assets down here and then you're working through the composition, and then new assets come in that you're introducing, and there's this like diagonal from the bottom left to the top right that happens naturally. It's just nice to keep that audio track on the very top all the time. That way you can see the waveform, you can deal with the waveform. And if it's at the bottom, then as you work, it just keeps going lower and lower before it hits below your desktop view and you can't see it anymore.